So MyUI is our AI startup. Um, Really, what we're trying to do there is an ecosystem of AI-based technologies that adapts digital interfaces to the specific needs of users with disabilities or those seeking some enhanced degree of personalization, right? So you can think about it this way. Instead of there being one interface, so just imagine a kiosk, and this kiosk is just kind of static, and there's one interface for you, there's one interface for me. We all use the same type of interface. Instead of that, we basically use AI to make predictions about about what the appropriate experience is for each of us. So I have my own experience, you have your own experience, Mark has his own experience. So the interface essentially adapts to the individual. So what we're doing with those kiosks at Clemson Downs is basically introducing some adaptive kiosks that provide a really customized experience for each of the older adult residents that will use it. So they'll be able to use those kiosks to do things like ordering meals, registering for events, figuring out, what is going on, like the news of the day and things of that nature. So they'll really be able to communicate with the staff and basically take action that up to this point they've only been able to basically realize through pen and paper. From our perspective, we look at AI as a really sophisticated tool that's going to enable us to create greater, more accessible solutions. So, solutions that previously would have been difficult to actually develop. So, one example of that is with MyUI. We're basically using AI. The way our ecosystem works, um, the user essentially plays games on a mobile device that gives us data on things like field of view, visual acuity, range of motion, light sensitivity, so on and so forth. Anything that has a relationship to how they might interact with an interface. We then feed that data to a machine learning model deployed to the cloud, which then makes a prediction about the context-specific interface that's appropriate for that user. AI is really opening the door of what is possible with a lot of these, emerging technologies, and it's helping us to kind of um, reimagine things in a way that is introducing potentially greater accessibility and usability. From a mobility perspective, the advances in AI are enabling things like autonomous vehicles, autonomous transportation generally, and things like that. Now, what I would say is um, the human-centered aspect of that is really critical, and that's not something that we can kind of overlook, right? Because if we don't develop these systems thinking about the human user first, then we're really going to be developing things that are not really going to be necessarily very usable. Really, we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are now without the type of support that we've received from Curve, and I mean that sincerely. Um, and it goes beyond just the funding. I would say the mentorship, the guidance in terms of some of the direction they've enabled us to kind of pursue, as we've kind of tried to be strategic about how to use our limited resources, because of course we are an academic startup, so resources are somewhat limited. Um, but the Curve relationship has been really critical in terms of helping us to kind of move things forward. So we've gone from really an idea to basically having a product which we'll deploy later this month, like you mentioned at Clemson Downs. We also have an office at the Brooke T. Smith Launchpad adjacent to Clemson's campus. We've hired some people, so a lot of that wouldn't have been possible without the relationships and without the support that we received from the university broadly, but specifically from Curve. we're starting to put much more content on social media. We have a social media manager um, and a marketing director. The who's been putting out a lot more content on social media with respect to both accessibility, personal mobility, how MyUI is addressing some of these challenges with inaccessible digital interfaces. So really following us on LinkedIn, MyUI, following MyUI on LinkedIn. That's one of the big ways that they can keep abreast of what we're doing. We also try to be pretty active on social media broadly, so on X um, and also on YouTube. So really just following us on social media. Anyone, I'm always happy to have a conversation with anyone or sit down and, be on a podcast or, have a conversation. So happy to have those discussions. So really, we try to have a pretty open door in terms of what we're doing and try to have like a lot of visibility in terms of the types of things that we're working on. We're hoping that this deployment at Clemson Downs is just the first start to many more deployments of our technology across the upstate and ultimately across South Carolina.